Welcome, friends, stoners, and Canafam to the latest episode of the Cannabis Chronicles. I am your boy, Brother Bong, and coming to you live from Black Unicorn Division Studios, overlooking New York City in the Bronx. And we are out of the storm. I see some emergency lights over in the distance, but I'm heading back into the studio because I wanted to smoke before the show. And get myself elevated before the show because I cannot smoke inside the studios at this particular studio. So I want to respect that. But I realized that I could do this, come outside, answer the phone, answer the show, and then keep it moving. So as I said, we are the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, Brother Bong. I'm actually doing a Mr. Rogers move right here because I don't wear shoes inside the studio. So I'm putting on my slippers, reminiscent of the one and only Fred Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. From many people's childhoods, doing what we do and loving the shows that we love. So we are the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, Brother Bong. I'm back inside the studio. And today is Wednesday, February 27th, 2026. And we got a couple of cool topics we're going to talk to you about. Getting my jacket off and everything. So what's going on with you guys? How you guys been? Hopefully your week is going well. Went well since we spoke last. Everything is good here on this end. Miss A and I are chilling. So we're doing our thing. So hopefully you want to do your thing. So as I said, we are the Cannabis Chronicles. We are a weekly candid cannabis community conversation that discuss, obviously, cannabis. So, well, if you guys don't know, I've been doing this for a few years now. I started out on this platform. I went to Instagram Live because I thought it was I wanted to do visual. And then now I'm back to this because this allows me to download it and then you can go check it out on on the platforms that I'm involved with. You can check it out on Buzzsprout. That is the original. That's the main platform that I have it on. So it's Buzzsprout, BUZZSPRUOT Sprout. I'm on YouTube. You can check me on the Brother Bong YouTube. I'm on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeart, and Podcast Index. All right, so we we pull from I pull from the internet, look up articles and different things that are cannabis related, and because we are obviously we do talk about cannabis, but and shout out to Wild Bill Wofford, our co-host. He's still healing, so sent out positive healing energy to my brother from another mother, and hopefully we were going to have you back soon. So this week's episode, Cannabis Access and Awareness. And what are we cannabis accessing and awareness, Brother Bong, Dr. Bong? We are talking about today's condition is PTSD. So we are the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, Brother Bong. We are a weekly candid cannabis community conversation. Our subject today is cannabis access and awareness, and we're talking specifically this week about PTSD. If you don't know what PTSD, that stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. And that affects so many people in the United States. Specifics, we're gonna break it down. So shout out to Best Buds Media, aka Best Buds Magazine, and Pen Game Publishing, DC and his team over there in Atlanta, Pittsburgh, LA, and New York. We are partnering up with Best Buds Media because we have obviously the shows, we have the magazine, and we have the publishing. So I just want to, I kind of gave it a name. It's not really a thing yet, Best Buds Media, but we'd like to make that happen. So, but you can check out my vlog. You can check out our vlog on bestbudsmagazine.com. That's buds with a Z. That's best, BESTBUDZ, magazine.com. And as I said, you can check out the vlog there. Going back to not the original studio, but the studio that was overlooking Fordham Road in the Bronx. Like I said, we are a New York, a Bronx-based show, a Bronx-based community, a Bronx-based collective. Shout out to Cannabis Society, our boys out there. We had a nice conversation in the meeting with them, and got some things coming up with them, and just looking forward to some really cool stuff. You can check them out, cannaware.org. And join the Cannaware United Network. It's really cool. I've been a part of Cannaware, but I gotta say, folks, I have been so wrapped up in work and, working for the dispensary that I was unable to, I had lots of things I wanted to do, but there were so many things that I was unable to do. So, shout out to Cannaware and Grizz, and thank you, Grizz, for allowing me to do the opportunity to be involved with Cannaware. So, peace, family. Welcome to the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, Dr. Bong, and some people know me as Brother Bong. But tonight I want to have a real conversation. I want to talk not about trends. It ain't about hype. It ain't about who's got this loudest strain, because we talk about that sometimes. Shout out to our boys at Sage Genetics with the strains. Tonight's strain is actually, I was just as we came on the air, I was coming in off the terrace, and I actually, bro, what I am just consumed was literally, I said it again, literally a hodgepodge of cannabis, because I opened up. I had the point where I didn't have any cones, so I had to roll up, and it was not a complete fail, but it was definitely different than what I'm used to, and when I rolled up before, and how I rolled up before. So anyway, I had those roaches, those clips left, and I broke them up. So they're from all over time, because it was a couple of times where I ran out, but I just saved the clips. So, but I'm indeed smacked. Got to pick up and move. But this is also the cool thing about having, not having Instagram, not being live, then I can actually get up and move around and still do the show and still talk. So we are the Cannabis Chronicles because, as always, folks, y'all know me. I always leave something. And tonight, I left my tea. So as we know, it's very important to keep your throat lubricated and be able to, talk. Miss A just walked by me looking at me like, what's going on? And this is the reason why I don't have, I'm not constrained by Instagram Live, but we are on a verbal channel. So I don't have to be struck in front of the set. So I was explaining to her at the same time. So warming up my tea, lubricating my throat, and just doing what we do here at the Cannabis Chronicles. So how's everybody's week been? Been busy doing our thing here with Starr Enterprises and what we do with that. Excuse me. Wow, there's my tea. So I'm going to have that nice and warm. All right. So PTSD. I mean, so many folks suffer from this condition. They have this, and you know what? So many people don't even know that they have it. Now, yes, it's defined now. It is a condition. It's obviously a condition that makes you qualify for the medical cannabis program in New York State. Shout out to the Office of Cannabis Management. Listen, if you don't have access, if you have questions, if you don't want to ask me, if you don't have somebody like me that you can ask those questions, simply go to the Office of Cannabis Management website and you can open up, you can answer any question you have as far as New York is concerned. And then you're going to open up that Pandora's box because there's so much information. Listen, I'm going to have a drink of my water. And that qualifying condition is there. So, let's see what's going on. Let me get to my notes here. So, all right. So, like I said, no trends, no hype, no loudest strains. Just we're talking about PTSD. Drop that. And if you're listening to this, there's a good chance you probably know someone who you know someone, you love someone who's carried trauma quietly. Now, folks, PTSD isn't weakness. It isn't drama. It isn't about being too sensitive. It's the body remembering what the mind is trying to survive. Say that again. It's the body remembering what the mind is trying to survive. And for many people, trust me, and I said this before many times before, cannabis isn't about getting hot. It's about finally feeling calm. I think I told you about my trauma, and if I haven't, you can go back and listen to past episodes. But I had trauma very early in life, and when it happened, I couldn't understand it until I looked back on it, and then I realized how I was able to articulate it. Now, many people, you've heard the sirens, the really loud air raid sirens, and maybe in real life and in movies or something to that effect. Now, for me, once the trigger happened, and I guess it was like the realization, was the death of my family to me. It was our grandmother, my family's matriarch, but to me, she was my mom because she was my primary caregiver, so on and so forth. And I remember, finding out, that she had passed, and I kind of had a premonition, and that's another story another time. But when I went, I kind of was on this, I don't know, I didn't understand. I was a kid, obviously. I was only 8 years old, 9 years old. And I, was trying to process what was going on. But basically, when I walked into the church for her services, it was kind of like the climax of everything. And then it was the end of that chapter too. So basically, these this sound went off in my head, and it was there, and I couldn't tell, I couldn't say, nobody else could hear it. So I couldn't articulate, can you hear that? Can you hear that? Can you hear that? Can you hear that? And obviously they couldn't because they weren't privy to what's going on in my head. So, wow. I had to, it went on. It was I had to live with the noise in the background of my head and my life. And I'm going to say for months and months. And finally was it was springtime or the summertime, and I was outside, and I had moved from one side of Pittsburgh. Shout out to Pittsburgh. The NFL draft's coming up there this couple of months from now, a month from now. And I moved from one side of town to the other side of town, so we didn't really know I didn't really know anybody. Only like my friends were people, my cousins. I had a huge family, so but I was chilling, and then when I was chilling with my cousin Alonzo, shout out to Alonzo, then I, got connected with the neighborhood. So now, I have been living there for a couple of months, and we were chilling on the steps, the city steps. Anybody who knows city living, project living, there's these always some steps and places where kids congregate and hang out. But we were the younger kids, and we're hanging out. And I had grabbed joint and enough from weed from my mom, and I had knew how to roll because before that, when I was younger, it was like a party trick. It was funny because I thought I was the only one who ever did that, but I found out that later on in life there were other people who had the same experience. But I knew how to roll a joint. Clean the seeds. Crush it up. Ba, 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 ba. So I had done this. I had to do it on the down low. I couldn't do it in front of anybody that I would do for myself. So I had these two pregnant looking joints, whatever. But I got it done. I got the job done. And my cousin Alonzo grabbed 2 beers. Now, for me, when alcohol wasn't like, I didn't like the taste. It wasn't like something that was my thing. But finally, lit the joints, and the alarms started to recede. The sound in my head started to quiet. It was really, really a strange experience. So that was my first experience. That was my first understanding that I had something going on in my head. Now, like I said, that was my body remembering what my mind is trying to survive. And so for many people, like I said, cannabis isn't about getting high. It's finally about feeling calm. And that's where I felt that point of calm. So today we're exploring PTSD through 4 lenses, through business, culture, health, potpourri. Now those are our 4, should I say, our 4 lenses on a regular basis, our 4 segments, business, culture, health, potpourri. But we look at a subject through those 4 lenses. So let's walk through this together, okay? So is the industry really truly serving PTSD? What do you think? I know you folks can listen to this later on, so just drop me an email at brotherbong420@gmail.com. It's brotherbong420@gmail.com. And you can, maybe give me a perspective on this particular situation. But is the industry truly serving PTSD? And I don't think so. I don't think across the board medically, I don't think the industry is serving the medical patients. So PTSD obviously is involved with that as well. But let's start with the business, okay? So the cannabis industry is growing fast, billions and billions and billions of dollars fast. I saw an article yesterday was projected a state that had just recently legalized cannabis, like saw like a huge windfall from introducing cannabis. But let's face it, it's billions and billions of dollars. But behind those numbers, folks, there's real people. As I say all the time, cannabis isn't for everybody, but everybody knows somebody who can benefit from cannabis, and those are real people. Those aren't just made up things. Those are veterans. Those are survivors. Those are parents, first responders, people who simply are just trying to sleep through the night. Now, see, what you don't know, folks, is that PTSD is one of the most commonly qualifying conditions for medical cannabis in many states. And yet, access, excuse me, access, as I said, I feel the whole industry is letting down the medical side. So, access still it's uneven. It's expensive, and sometimes it can be complicated. Now, if you live in New York State, like I said, check out the Office of Cannabis Management. It will walk you through that if you feel you need to get your card. But first of all, remember, it's self-pay. Insurance doesn't cover it. Federal law creates barriers, so that's why you're going to hear all the rigmarole from everybody, what's going on. And it just kind of gets information gets lost, and it escapes because there's so much information. But just stay in your lane. So just worry about That's what I had to learn to do, is just worry about medical. Not worry about anything else, but just worry about medical. So, but federal law still is still not legal. It's still not legal in the federally for cannabis. So many patients feel like they're navigating it alone. And trust me, that's part of the reason why I'm here. It started out because of COVID and because of the lockdown, because we couldn't talk. But it evolved to the fact that, I wanted to help people understand. The question isn't just, is there a market? The question, is there a market for PTSD? The question should be, are we building this industry with compassion? Do we have compassion in the industry? And again, I'm going to have to wholeheartedly say no. Are brands investing in education? A few. Shout out to a few of the a shout out to Curaleaf and their whole campaign with B Noble and Five Five Freddy and Bernard Noble. If you don't know, percentage of that particular strain, that particular brand goes to cannabis reform, individuals who are incarcerated. Uh, Bernard Noble, who I had the honor of meeting in Brooklyn a few years ago when they had just come, they dropped the strains in the cannabis strain in the cannabis line. And he, there's things we here in New York, man, we take for granted. We think it's, but we don't have just laws. Laws aren't applied justly across the United States. And this brother was displaced from Hurricane Katrina, and he was living in Texas, and he was on a bike, not a moped, not a motorcycle, a pedal bike. Got pulled over because, again, harassment for those people. They were looking at these people as what they say, they're refugees. But how could you be a refugee if you're an American citizen? Another question, another statement, another time. Basically, he was pulled over, and he had the equivalent of about 2.5 grams of cannabis on him, and he got 12 years. I believe I just don't have my information. I just started talking about it, so I didn't do I obviously have the research on it, but I don't have it in front of me. But basically, so that part of that, and so the industry, yes, absolutely, compassion on that end, but medically, I don't know. So are dispensaries training their staff to understand what trauma sensitivity is? Is somebody coming into your dispensary and they're really suffering? Which, by the way, I have seen on several occasions, individuals who were, normally extremely introverted and had to come to the dispensary to get their medicine, and we took all precautions to deal with those individuals with the best care and responsibility that we could. But every dispensary doesn't train like that. Every dispensary doesn't know that. Are we supporting veteran-owned businesses and survivor-led spaces? If cannabis is medicine for trauma, then the business must move with care, not just commerce. We are the Cannabis Chronicles, a weekly candid cannabis community conversation where we discuss cannabis. I'm your boy, Brother Bong, joined normally by my homie, the one and only Wild Bill Wofford, and he is AKA Professor Waffles. Like, he would be here now if I was having a sip of water, as I just did, to take your eyes off of me and, continue talking about his stuff. So, but that's okay, because we can do what we got to do, what we got to do. So, culture. We are the Cannabis Chronicles. Segment 2 is culture. Now, trauma has many faces, many faces. When most people hear PTSD, they think combat. But look, about my story. Yes, there are many people who suffer PTSD through combat experience. And first of all, I want to say this: thank you to all the soldiers and sailors and Marines and airmen and space. I don't know what they call the new space cadets, or I don't know, it's called space cadet, because that used to be a negative connotation back in the day. But shout out to all of them. and all those people who serve us every day around the world. We salute you. We thank you. But listen, our veterans, no doubt about it, they carry heavy stories. But trauma shows up in many forms, my friends. Friends, stoners, and canna fams. Like I said, I talked to you about this. My personal trauma, community violence. I mean, we live in the Bronx. I live in the Bronx, so I've been hearing about people getting shot on a weekly basis in neighborhoods that I know of since I've been here, and I've been here since 2018. Domestic abuse, medical emergencies, childhood instability. Excuse me, even growing up in constant stress. Some family never call it. They never call it PTSD. I learned one of the things when I was in dealing with my PTSD was that certain things we say is like, what goes on in this household stays in this household. But then that limits you, that prevents you from asking for help, because sometimes you need help outside of your home. And so you got to be careful. That was a really, 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 really tough line for me to follow. Some people, like I said, some families never call it PTSD. They call it bad nerves. Oh, she's just nervous. She's just a nervous. He just nervous. They just nervous. They got a situation. I can't sit still. Always moving around. Always worried about what's going on. What's happening? What's next? Always on guard. Now that's me. That was my what my PTSD manifested as they called it hypersensitivity. Hypervigilance. So a person who I would know that the house was locked, the door was locked, my bedroom door was locked, I had my weapons, and yet I still felt as though something could happen. Hypervigilance is what they call it. So in many communities, cannabis became, for me, as I said, it came as a quiet coping tool long before it was legal. And I've said that many times on the show. And now this legalization is here. This is a powerful moment, my friends. This is a powerful, powerful moment. And it's happening. And basically, the narrative is shifting. We're talking about it differently. I can remember, back in the day when I first started, consuming cannabis, but when the prohibition of cannabis was in heavy, and you had to have your urinalysis test to get a decent job. So I always worked on the fringes at the beginning because there were no remedies, there were no get arounds. So I worked like jobs that were, cash, and didn't do urinalysis tests. We did the research on that one. I lucked out and worked for an agency for a couple of years that didn't have a urinalysis test, which was great. But then once I left that agency, then I discovered I discovered the synthetic urine, and it was great because then that was really got me through, working and different jobs at the time because. As I said, cannabis was part of my life on such a strong, such a heavy basis that I, was what did my therapist, what did they call it? They call it I wasn't employable because I was always, constantly gonna come up hot on the urinalysis test. What I didn't realize then, what I realize now, what I've learned now is that I wasn't getting high, I was medicating. So like I said, my narrative shifted. The narrative is shifting across the board. It went from shame to healing. It went from hiding it out, hiding, not letting people know. Because, some people found out you smoke cannabis, you could have a serious problem. As a matter of fact, that same agency that didn't test us something happened, found out about another person in the agency, they had a situation, they had to take a urinalysis test. So they will come get you. Back then they come get you with that on. They might not test you to get in the job, but they could test you once you got the job. So that was a slippery slope because you couldn't do anything to get suspicious. So you had to, again, very, very, very clandestine, very clandestine. That's what it was in cannabis at the time. But like I said, we were doing, but now look at us. Now look at us. We are having a conversation. It went from survival mode to basically a support system. So we talk about it openly about trauma. We can give people permission to seek peace. And if cannabis is part of that peace, if cannabis gives you that peace, then who am I? Who am I? Who is anyone to judge you? You do what you do to feel better. We are the Cannabis Chronicles. I am your boy, Brother Bong. We are weekly candid cannabis community conversation. Shout out to our friends at Chill Pipes and Buds Feed, Chill.store and Buds Feed Weekly. Shout out to Justin and his teams on both Chill Pipes. I have one of their bongs, and I am a collector of bongs. So I had a few bongs. I broke my glass bong. It was because the water in the place, I was moved into a place and it was so hot, and I turned on the water and I just stuck my bong on it to put hot water on it. It was sad. It was like a 3 foot bong. No, like a 2 footer, yellow, beautiful, beautiful glass, beautiful. Again, and it was one of those. It wasn't like a mass made one. It was definitely unique and definitely. And I bought it when I was working in Brooklyn. No, I bought that up top. Shout out to Up Top. Shout out to Middletown. Shout out to Living Soil. Excuse me, Gaetano, his team. We have Paolo. I've only heard about Paolo, and I met Manuel. So shout out to them. Listen, if you are a cultivator and you would like to try a new soil, you really, really should give them a look. You should really give them a try. From several, I'm doing my research. Again, what we have here at Starr Enterprises, aka the Cannabis Chronicles, Best Buds Magazine. We have a network of how should I say this? We have a network of relationships. We talk with, we have interactions with, we have conversations with so many different people in this cannabis space. And I just so happened to come across an event, and shout out to Nelson Cuevas, one of the pioneering pharmacists in this medical cannabis space. But we were at an event in Valhalla, and I came across Gaetano, and his presentation really caught my eye. I'm a person who I like to follow up with people and follow up on and we exchanged cards. We had a conversation. So I was doing a little research for them, and I wanted to shout them out today. So shout out to Big Gas Dispensary. You can check out Living Soil. You can check them out at Living Soil. That's one word. Excuse me. Let me just start over. Living Soil MDV.com. And if you're a cultivar, check them out. And they got some really good prices. They got a sale going on too right now. Now through the end of the month, now through the end of next month. So check it out. Big Gas Dispensary, biggasdispensary.com. What can I say about Kareem? What can I say about just a wonderful person who I have been associated with for many, many years from up top. And we had a conversation, and I had just started working in medical cannabis, so it was really, really limited. My knowledge was really, really limited, but we fast forward 10 years. Yes, that's right, folks. It's been 10 years. And, the conversation we had, I would say 7, 8 years ago, things have come to fruition that we never thought would happen. But I'm just glad to be part of whatever it is. It's 10 years. It's just an amazing thing for me. So, health. We are the Cannabis Chronicles. We are medical cannabis conversation. We all talk about potpourri. We talk about other things. We talk about current events. But I just want to talk science. PTSD is real, and it attacks the nervous system. We have in our bodies, we have in our systems, we have in our, I don't know, in our survival skills as humans called fight or flight. And it's fight or flight mode. They say it was when we were not the apex predator that we are now, but when we were subject to the animals around us. So we had to have that second sense, that sixth sense that something's not right. Well, that's part of PTSD. That's part of your nervous system. So basically, what happens in fight or flight mode is that your heart is racing all the time, all the time. Many people see that mind replaying those memories on loop. Like that was my thing for many years. I haven't, like I said, I had that dream, and it took years of, it just wasn't the cannabis, but what the cannabis did, and it was the first thing was, I cannot imagine if I had to live with that noise that obviously was very real to me at the time, if I had to live with that for the rest of my life. So I'm thankful that I was able to find something that was able to quiet that down. And again, looking back on it, hindsight is 2020, no doubt about it. Any day, twice on Sunday. So basically, PTSD impacts the nervous system, and also all that can impact your sleep. Wake up, can't sleep. Wake up, can't sleep. Sleep, wake up, can't sleep. And so the endocannabinoid system, the system that interacts with cannabis, plays a role in regulating our stress, helping us process our fear, balancing our mood, and then most importantly, sleep. Did you know that sleep is one of the things that cannabis can be beneficial for? That's right. Sleep can help because, again, it's about, I say to my patients, it's like, what kind of sleep do you have to begin with? Like some people have sleep where they can actually go to sleep perfectly fine, but they cannot stay asleep. And then there's people who, if once they fall asleep, they can sleep fine. But then there's those poor people who have both. So for me, what I say to folks is this, is that if you have both of those, let's go to the extreme. If you have both of those conditions, what I would suggest to a medical patient is to try something that's going to do a combination. And the combination treatment would be something simple as having a oral solution in a cup of tea like I'm having, have your green tea, have a dose of your medical cannabis, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, whatever it is. Put it in your cup of tea. Drink your cup of tea. Now, while you're drinking your cup of tea, friends, you have a little consumption also of a vape or a joint or a bong or something like that. And what does that do? What that does is that, again, that's an overlap. That's a combination. So the feelings that you feel from the tea are going to be a later onset. But the condition, the experience you feel from the vape or the joint or the bong or the dab. Somebody told me to always remember my dab friends. Remember my dab friends. Shout out to my dab friends. It's going to be instant. So feel that vape right away. While you're enjoying that experience, you're going to then, as that experience dissipates, the oral solution or in the cup of tea is going to kick in. So that joint is going to make you want to go to sleep. And then once you get to sleep, that oral solution, that extended relief product, is going to help you stay asleep. So, I mean, that's just, again, that's me. That's that's Dr. Bong, that's me. I don't say, I cannot attest, I cannot say that every bud tender, every cannabis sales associate is going to be as thorough, is going to listen to you. It's not going to be product driven because let's face it, sometimes people, we talk about it all the time. We want to sell this product. We want this thing out the door because we have too much of it. There's a sale on it. Whatever the case may be, trust me, my friends, cannabis is no different. So there's going to be things that are on sale that they may recommend that may fit the bill, but fit their bill as well. So just remember to do your research. Just remember to make sure that you understand what happens. Because what happens when you're able to regulate your stress, when you're able to process your fear, you balance your mood, you support your sleep, then it can help patients experience fewer nightmares, less hypervigilance, fall asleep more easily, and manage anxiety spikes. But if you don't give it a shot, then you're going to suffer from because again, cannabis isn't for even for something as and all I believe, obviously they all are serious. The qualifying conditions in New York are all serious enough to be on that list. But I think there's some things when we hear them, when we hear PTSD, when we hear cancer, when we hear those conditions, we don't. I have never, and I have always trained people because again, I found myself to be a trainer from very early in the beginning. I train folks not to lead patients to believe that cannabis is going to cure you. Cannabis isn't a cure. Cannabis just is a supplement, an option, something for you to try, something to help you deal with the symptoms associated with that particular condition, with that state of sickness. That's what all medicine does, friends. That's what it does. That's what it's supposed to do. That's what all of them are supposed to do. So cannabis, like I said, it's not magic. In some forms, cannabis can be, high THC can freak some people out. It can be overwhelming. Balanced ratio with CDs may feel gentler. So you have a little CBD in it. If you have an equal ratio on zero D, oh my gosh, ran that all together. If you have equal parts of THC and CBD, you can level out the psychotropic completely, and you can still get all of the benefits from the cannabinoid science, the cannabinoid medicine. So microdosing, something you could try. It's an effective thing, which means that you don't take as much. I say to folks all the time, like I had a guy back in the day, come to that guy, but have a small vape, have a small inhalation, inhale it. You do not have to break the bank to get the effect. Now, getting back to this patient. Now, when vapes first came out, there were guys and people who they obviously had experience with cannabis. They obviously had experience with the legacy market, and they knew what they're doing. They knew what they were doing in that space. But it's a different kind of experience when you vape because it is a different, same route of administration, just a different potency. So what happens is people think because it doesn't smell, it doesn't have, that ember burn, that kind of thing. You may have a choke, when you smoke, when you combust, you may have a smoke. Excuse me, you may have a cough. Many times with vaping, you don't experience that, so they think that they need more. This particular case, this guy told me he knew everything about cannabis, and I couldn't tell him nothing. He just wanted his vapes. And I usually had to, caveat those people, hey, listen, I trust you, man. I want you to experience this, but just be careful. Be careful. So one of the beautiful things about this is because people come back. And he came back. And he said he thought I was full of shit. So when he went out to the car, I said, man, maybe you want to wait till you get home before you try it. Wait till you get home before you try it. He's like, fuck, he didn't trust me. So he did it in the car before he left the dispensary. Well, on his halfway into his ride home is when it peaked. And it got him really, really, really high. It got him so high that he didn't forget where he lived at, but he forgot how to park the car. So he had to call his wife and have his wife come down and park the car. So again, be careful, folks. Just understand that microdosing can be more effective than any heavy use can ever be, especially if you are cannabis naive. So cannabis works best if you pair it with therapy and self-awareness. Healing doesn't happen right away. It's not a cup of soup. It's not ramen noodle. It's layered. It's layered. Cannabis can open the door, but support can help you walk through it. Talk to people. Talk to other people about it. As I said, we are the Cannabis Chronicles. I am your boy, Brother Bong. We are a weekly candid cannabis community conversation where we talk about our favorite subject, cannabis. And today we are talking about PTSD and cannabis. Shout out to Best Buds Media. Shout out to Best Buds Magazine. Shout out to Sage Genetics. Shout out to our friends at Cannaware Society. Shout out to the people at Chill Pipes and Buds Feed, to Living Soil, and Big Gas Dispensary. We are always, always happy and thankful for our relationships with all of you. And you can check them out at their different websites. And listen, if you want to get involved with this cannabis thing as an activist, as boots on the ground, there is no better place than you can start with the Cannabis Society. I mean, there's a whole network. As a matter of fact, once you get involved, you are going to be involved with the Cannaware Network. And what the Cannaware United Network does is it keeps you linked up to the other people in the network. So you can have a question, you can reach out to Brother Bong. You can reach out to Dr. Bong. You have a question, you can reach out to Sam. Shout out to Sam and Puffin Chess. Does some really cool thing. Think about it. What do most people do when they smoke with their friends? They play games. We have paired that, Cannaware and Sam and Puff and Pass and his company have paired that to be an event. So come check them out. You can check them out on Cannaware.org. That is Cannaware.org, and become part of the Cannaware network. And then you can be plugged in. You could be plugged in like I am, like we are, like Sam is, like Wild Bill Waffle. Shout out to Wild Billy. Shout out to AKA the one and only Professor Waffles. We miss you, man. You're gonna get better. We're gonna get better. We're gonna see you soon. We've been talking about cannabis access and awareness as it applies to PTSD. We talked about the fact that is the industry serving PTSD? Is it serving PTSD? We talked about the different faces of trauma. Culturally, trauma is a different, it has different faces. It's not always about the soldiers. It's not always about that, even though those are very, very poignant and significant instances of PTSD. There are other instances in everyday life that people suffer and they experience, and they have to deal with PTSD for the rest of their lives. So we also talked about how it is what's happening in the body, with health. It, excuse me. So, we talked about how it affects the endocannabinoid system, how it can help us process our fear and our stress, our mood, our sleep. It can do so many things as far as our health is concerned. So let's just face it, the endocannabinoid system is something that you can research right now. You can go to your phone, pick up your phone, Go to Google and search endocannabinoid system. That's ENDOCANNABINOID system. And you will be connected and you will learn. And you will say that I talked to my boy, I heard from my boy, Brother Bong, Dr. Bong, talking to me about uh, cannabis. So, you know, we talked about it. We talk about it all the time. But I want to talk to you guys from the heart. A lot of people self-medicate before they even knew what the word PTSD is. I did. I am. And if you're one of those people, um, sometimes you may just feel like it's just being tense or disconnected or restless. Cannabis, I feel, and this is just, again, this is from my perspective, cannabis put a pause on those, that alarm, that blaring sound that was so audible to me, that was no audible for anybody else, and how it affected me and how it affected my behavior and how it affected how I interacted with people, how I wanted to interact with myself, the things that I did, the things that I didn't want to do. And, I truly, truly, truly know that I was affected by my PTSD. And I'm so thankful that I was able to find that relief. And I hope that you and someone else can find that relief, because a lot of people, like I said, they just feel like they're stressed out. I'm stressed out. I don't know why I'm stressed out. I'm this person, this thing, this feeling. Um, and the sad thing is that that's real. So just know the cannabis can create that pause. It can create a breath. It can create, for me, it creates that moment of not always having to be alert. Um, it creates those soft moments, those creative moments, those moments when it's just you and your thoughts and the universe, and how you traverse this experience, how you embrace this experience, how we embrace this experience. And for me, guys, I'm telling you, this show always is very therapeutic for me, because I get a chance to just talk and talk to that universe, talk to that space, because sometimes I get a lot of interactions. Sometimes I get people popping in and they ask all kind of questions, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's just me. It's been me for how many minutes now? 53 minutes. And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that, because I love sharing the message that I have in my heart, in my experience, in my wheelhouse, in my perspective, that medical cannabis can do. Not just PTSD, chronic pain, not just chronic pain, ALS, not just ALS, AIDS, HIV. Cannabis can help relieve the symptoms associated with so many conditions. Just do your research. Sleep apnea. People say, oh, that such and such snores so loud. Oh, I wish they stopped snoring. And then they stop snoring. And you go, oh, thank God. And then a minute or two later, what happens? They start breathing again. They start snoring again. Sleep apnea is something that's serious. Sleep apnea can help. Sleep apnea can kill you. Trust me. But cannabis is on that list. PTSD is on that list. Glaucoma, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. One of the first people I ever saw on Vice TV, shout out to Vice TV, was a guy who was going through Parkinson's. He had the severe shakes. He hit a vape. He was within a minute of that inhalation of that vape. He was no longer shaking like he was. He could barely even, like have a drink of water or soda or whatever, because he shook so violently that the liquid would slosh out of the bottle, out of the cup, whatever. So he couldn't use that. He couldn't drink. He couldn't live. How can you possibly call that quality of life? But his life was the quality of his life was improved by the application of cannabis in his life. He was able to relieve that, and that was so cool for me. But fibromyalgia, dystonia, hepatitis C, diabetes, psoriasis, osteoporosis, MRSA, rheumatoid arthritis, incontinence, GI disorders, hypertension, chronic pain, Tourette's syndrome, speaking of Tourette's, ALS, multiple sclerosis, Huntington disease, migraines. Getting back to Tourette's syndrome. This is Black History Month, folks. We had a situation, one of my favorite movies. I actually just watched the movie again when we were traveling from Chicago back to New York. I watched Sinners again. I watched Michael B. Jordan perform an Oscar-worthy performance as two characters, the Smokestack Twins. I saw Delroy Lindo, who, if you friends don't know, I'm an actor, and I love the Samuel French version of the scripts because it fit perfectly in my pocket. I've been an actor my whole life. As a high school student, wearing my jeans, going to school, they fit perfectly in my pocket. And I love them. And they gave you a background. They gave you a background of who also played that part. And if it went on Broadway, or how it progressed it went from this theater company to this theater company to that to Broadway, and who was the cast in the particular play. Now, I played years ago after I came home, speaking of PTSD, when I came home from the PTSD program, I had my little cellular phone. Uh, I didn't do unknown numbers, and at the time there was no screening situation. It just came as an unknown caller. So I happened to be in my apartment. I was in the studio, and I was actually painting. I love painting. I love creating that medium as well. So I'm in the middle of painting, and I get this call, and I see an unknown caller, but something said pick it up. So I picked it up. Hey man, what's going on, Jeff? It's Ken Tashan, man. Blah, blah, blah. My brother from another mother. Love this guy. Shout out to Ken. Shout out to Cornerstone. Everybody involved. I see you. I see y'all doing y'all thing. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you guys do, and you're just doing the thing. But anyway, Ken calls me with the script. He says, "I want you to do this part, man. I want you to do this part. It's called Cobb. The play's called Cobb, and I want you to play this guy Oscar Charleston." So I said, oh, okay. No, I didn't say okay. I never said like that. He said, I'm gonna drop the script off, and I'll leave it in your mailbox. Don't worry about it. You don't have to see me, blah, blah, blah. Just drop it off in your mailbox, tell me your address. So sure enough, the next day, went downstairs, the script is in my mailbox. Read the script, in love with the script. Like, oh my God, I have to play this part. I have to play this part. The coolest part I had seen in a long time. So then I then got the Samuel French version of the play in my hands. I read the script, I read all the information, I read the back, everything in it. But who was playing the part that I played, who actually took it to Broadway, was Delroy Lindo. That's why I said all that. So he and Michael B. Jordan were at the BAFTA Awards. Shout out to the BAFTA, I guess. I don't know. Let's pull that back. But during their actually, they weren't even speaking. They hadn't won an award. They were presenting an award. This person who has Tourette syndrome yelled out, "Nigger bitches." So everybody was aghast. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But they start immediately excusing the behavior. That behavior is not excusable. Even if you have Tourette's, you should be apologetic of what you say. If you called somebody a fat or a this or that, that person would may warrant an apology. So these gentlemen warrant an apology, and they never got them an apology. Never got an apology from BAFTA. Never got an apology from this man. Never got an apology from the people around them. And I just feels like in this day and age, it just goes to prove that certain segments of the society, how we feel, what we feel, means nothing to the rest of the society. And that's just not how it is. Because when it's time to kick it in, when it's time to ante up, you ask us to kick in the ante up, and we've kicked in and anteed up. We're not asking for the respect, we're demanding our respect. And these two men, I feel, deserve and warrant and should have their respect. I'm your boy, Brother Bong. We are the Cannabis Chronicles, weekly candid cannabis community conversation. Folks, I cannot believe that my hour is up. I mean, not almost up. This shit is up. And I got to tell you, it has everything to do with being prepared. It has everything to do with doing it and doing it well. So, listen, cannabis helps you regulate. Use it with a purpose. You deserve your rest. You deserve to be calm. You deserve healing. And PTSD damn sure don't define me, and it damn sure don't define you. It's something we experienced, and it's not who we are. Yo, we are the Cannabis Chronicles, a space where we don't just celebrate cannabis. We honor the people who use it and survive it and use it and heal from it. This episode spoke to you. Share it. Share the conversation. Start the conversation. Listen, you can check this out on Spotify. You can check us out on, let's see, where else are we at? You can check us on Apple. You can check us on Amazon Music, iHeart, Podcast Index, Buzzsprout, and YouTube. Start that conversation. Check in on somebody. Yo, I'm Dr. Bong, Brother Bong. I want to shout out Best Buds Magazine, Pen Game Publishing, Best Buds Media. You can check Best Buds out at bestbudsmagazine.com. You can check out my vlog from the very original, one of the original studios. That was my own concept. I gotta say, it was pretty cool. It did all the bags, and I have those somewhere, and I'm going to create a backdrop with that. So it's going to be somewhere. I'm going to have it. It's going to come back in some way, shape, or form. So just bear with your boy. I'm working on it. I'm doing what I got to do. Shout out to Sage Genetics. I had Italian ice, but I continued. I smoked what do you call that? The salad. And the salad was some very good, because I'm definitely feeling it. So thank you, Sage Genetics. Thank you, Cannabis Society. Great meeting yesterday. Event on Thursday. I'm trying to see. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it tomorrow. Got so much going on, but we will talk about it and we will get it done. You can check out Sage Genetics on Instagram, Sage_genetics. That's GENTIX at Instagram.com. Cannaware Society, Cannaware.org, Cannaware United Network. Get involved. You can be a soldier, become part of the platoon. Chill Pipes and BuzzFeed. You can check out the Chill Pipes. Really cool bongs. Really cool stuff all across the board. Chill.store. .com. Check out BuzzFeed Weekly. You're a cultivator. You want to get some soil. You want to get some good soil, and this is all on like a microbial level. You know, Gaetano is like the mastermind, the genius, and the mad scientist behind all of it. But if you're interested in finding out something, check them out. LivingSoilMDV.com. And if you're in the New Paltz area, check out my friend, my homie, and his team. Kareem at Big Gas Dispensary, and you can check them out online at biggasdispensary.com. I am Dr. Bond. I want you to stay grounded. I want you to stay informed. I want you to stay lifted, but I want you to stay lifted responsibly. Responsibly. So, peace, love, happiness, all my friends, stoners and canna fam. Peace.